Hi, this is Lee Furseth from the Headwater Science Center in Bemidji, Minnesota, and this is our 3:30 STEM show. And here I am with Orion. All right, if you're a really good follower of 3:30 shows, you know that every single Wednesday is reading. Well, I'd like to say it's reading to Orion. I haven't read to Orion in about 5 weeks. I did this for over 3 months, Orion and I, every single Wednesday. And then I did a handoff to Keturah, Maine. Keturah, Maine has been here for about 20 years at the Headwater Science Center. And I did a handoff to Keturah to do some book readings on Wednesday. And Keturah read not only to Orion, but Keturah read to our parakeet, and Keturah read to some of our insects and all those things. And here I am back at 3:30 on a Wednesday. Well, I'm actually subbing for Keturah. She'll be back next Wednesday, but I like reading to Orion. And so here we are back, you and I, Orion, for a 3:30 STEM show. And, yep, like the deal always was, Orion said, I want books about rabbits. And I said, I'm not only reading books about rabbits, Orion, I'm also going to read books about, and then he interrupted me. Orion is so certain about what he wants, he interrupts me and says, well, no large carnivores. Well, I've even snuck in a large carnivore from time to time. But today, it's about ducklings. By the way, I don't think there's any rabbits in this story, but we'll find out. But today is about ducklings. And I had never read a book by Eva Moore. Pictures, by the way, are by Nancy Carpenter. But I started reading this book, and yes, ducklings out and about right now. A mother duck and her ducklings out and about right now would be very frequent, something you'd see around Bemidji, Minnesota. Yep, everything's melting and we're getting ready for all of that sort of stuff. But I like to think about a book and go, could that really happen? Are we just totally fiction here, or could this actually happen? And so that's what I would tell you. Could what happens in today's story happen right here in Bemidji, Minnesota? Could it happen? Well, here we go. Here we are at the story. And by the way, I think I'll take off my mask. How come? Well, you know, 3:30, we don't have any guests here on a Wednesday, so here I go. This is The Lucky Ducklings by Eva Moore, Nancy Carpenter. Boy, that picture looks a lot like the shoreline here in Bemidji, Minnesota. The duck family lived in a pretty pond and a green park in a sunlit little town at the end of a long island. Early one morning, Mama Duck swam to shore. She hopped onto the grass. Right behind her came Pippin, Bippin, Tippin, Dippin, and last of all, Little Joe. We're just going to say that's Little Joe right there. I see, Orion? There they are. Yeah, oh wow, you are interested in ducklings. What a fine day for a walk. Off they went through the green park. Whack-a-whack, Mama Duck called to her brood. Follow me is what she meant. And Bippin, Bippin, Tippin, Dippin, and last of all, Little Joe lined up right behind her, and off they went. They went out of the park and into town. The ducks had a bite to eat. Now, I'm going to tell you, the bite to eat was probably stuff some human beings actually threw out onto the sidewalk or the street. Yes, I'm talking about littering. That's what I'm actually talking about, because that looks more like littering than maybe they were intentionally feeding the ducklings. They do show a garbage can with some stuff falling out of it. So that's what the ducklings are eating away at. Yeah, literally littering. I think that's what's going on. Then they went on their way. Mama Duck went first. Can you see what's going to happen? I mean, it's kind of fun to predict what's happening in a book. Can you see what's going to happen? Right behind came Pippin, Bippin, Tippin, Dippin, and Little Joe. Oh dear, that could have been the end of the story. But it wasn't, because, all right, so we got a sewer grate there, right? Is that believable? The ducks have all fallen into... Yeah, I believe that could have happened. Someone saw what had happened. "Help!" cried a woman. All the baby ducks fell into the storm drain. "Call the fire department." Wow, I think that's pretty inventive. Call the fire department. I wonder if that's who I would have called. Here go 5 ducklings. They're falling into the storm drain, and I'm going to call the fire department. "Hey, can you come and rescue 5 ducks?" Mama Duck heard them too. She ran back to the storm drain and wouldn't let anyone get near. There she is screaming away. "Get away from my babies." Firemen Joe, Paul, and Dennis rushed to the rescue, but they couldn't open the grate. See, he's pulling away there. Can't open the grate. The ducklings were trapped. Oh dear, that could have been the end of the story, but it wasn't, because... Okay, you thinking? What would be the rescue here? What would happen in Bemidji, Minnesota? I think this is exactly what would happen in Bemidji, Minnesota. Somebody would be going, "Hey, I could help." A man named Perry had an idea. There was a big roll of cable in the back of his pickup truck. He hooked up the end of the cable to the grate and then switched on the motor. The cable tugged on the grate. Do we got anybody named Perry in Bemidji who might have hooked on to the grate? And the grate popped off. Quack, 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 quack. Fireman Paul climbed down into the storm drain. Everyone waited. All right, so can you imagine the mother duck, what she's going through? Because I've seen mother ducks before, and when you're messing with their babies, well, let's just say they're pretty loud and they try to be as scary as they possibly can. And when they saw Pippin, Bippin, Tippin, Dippin, and last of all, little Joe, and he's putting him into a bucket right there. Everyone cheered. Fireman Joe picked up the bucket filled with ducklings and started to cross the road. He was going to take those ducklings, I like the was, he was going to take the ducklings back to the park. Mama Duck came running after him. "Quacking and quacking," she cried. "Bring my babies back." Oh dear, that could have been the end of the story. But it wasn't, because, all right, what's going to rescue this situation? Fireman Dennis knew exactly what to do. Can you see him? Honk, honk, beep, beep, stopping the traffic. At last, Mama Duck and her brood, well, there's a word for you, brood. Is that what they call 5 baby ducks? Are they called a brood? Were together again, all safe and sound. "Quack, quack, quack," Mama Duck said. "What lucky ducklings you are." Quack, 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 quack went all the ducklings, because they agreed. There they are, all 5 of them. I kind of thought something was going to happen to little Joe that maybe made him a little different than the other 4, but the 5 lucky ducklings lined up behind their mother, and off they went. Pippin, Bippin, Tippin, Dippin, and of course, last of all, little Joe. And that's the end of that story. We have some more for you today, because I found this story about a skunk. Now, when do skunks come out? When do they come out after winter? Why do they come out? What's going to go on in this story? Now, there's a lot of fiction going on in this story. There's a lot of stuff being made up. Animals are friends and they're all interacting. But the part about the skunk hibernating, I think we got some facts there. Although I came across a new word today, torpor. Torpor, T-O-R-P-O-R. You could go look that one up. That'd be a good thing for you to do. Not right now, because I want you to listen to the story. Do skunks actually hibernate, or do they torpor? There you go. Is there a bunny rabbit in this story? Absolutely, Orion. There's a bunny rabbit, because he's right there in the front cover. There he is, and he is a friend of the skunks. Now, I'm going to tell you that in my yard, it's already showing up. The skunks do make a whole bunch of mess in yards when they're digging around for the grubs that are underneath the grass. That would be skunks doing that. They can look like little tiny tunnels being dug into the grass. That's skunks. So there he is. Skunk spring surprise. Wow, the red-tailed hawk has an opinion. Did you hear that? The red-tailed hawk is going, so how about a story about a red-tailed hawk? Do you think that was what that was about? Would a red-tailed hawk attack a skunk? I wonder. And what would happen? By the way, there's some puns in this story, and I need to tell you, this story is actually a poem, so just expect it to kind of roll off my tongue. This one is a poem. The very day that winter ends, skunks wake from dreaming of their friends. See? See the bubble? The thinking bubble? That's what the skunk is doing. She blinks her eyes and shakes her head, then jumps right up and makes her bed. Hooray, my winter nap is done. It's time for me to have some fun. I'm kind of thinking that's how skunks get up. Yep, they wake up going, There he is. Skunk yawned and stretched, twists and bends, then scurries off to find her friends. Good morning, Turtle, calls out Skunk. Where are you, Mole? Hello, Chipmunk. Skunk listens hard and smells the air, but does not find them anywhere. There you go. Taking a look, right? Yeah. Where are my friends? Where can they be? Have they all forgotten me? Perhaps they hate the way I smell. Skunk stamps her feet and starts to yell, but no one hears Skunk rant and rave, not even the bear inside his cave. There you go. Yes, rabbit is coming. It does happen. Skunk is thirsty, sad, and hot. A drink, she said, would hit the spot. She sighs and gives herself a shake and slowly trudges to the lake. So there's the rabbit holding up the hat, which is kind of a little bit of a joke, right? Because the rabbit is holding the hat. Skunk's friends are waiting on the sand to welcome Skunk as they had planned. Bunny hops about. Oh dear, I thought by now Skunk would be here. She always wakes and takes a drink. Fox sniffs and says, that's her, I think. Get it? Get it? I'll read that part again. She always wakes and takes a drink. Fox sniffs and says, that's her, I think. Hush, says Turtle with a wink. Don't scare her off. She'll make a stink. Wow, we're picking on the skunk for sure, aren't we? Everything there was about her smell. Skunk, squeals Mole. How do you do? We've got a big surprise for you. For months, we've been planning a talent show. Ready or not, Skunk? Here we go. Right there. There's the rabbit. Take a look. Fox shows Skunk Frog's favorite joke. Frog laughs so hard, he starts to croak. You get it? Another joke. Did you get the joke? I'll read it again. Fox shows Skunk Frog's favorite joke. Frog laughs so hard, he starts to croak. As if he could do something else, right? Turtle strikes a skunk-like pose, then dances lightly on his toes. Chipmunk tosses nuts and sticks and teaches Skunk some juggling tricks. So there's the chipmunk juggling away. Mole dances like an acrobat while Crow flips Bunny from a hat. That's about it for the rabbit in the story, I hate to tell you. Right there. That's the extent of his tricks. Snake and Ladybug hum a note, then sing a song for Skunk. They wrote, Ant swings beetles by the knees, then lands in front of Skunk with ease. The end, say Beetle, Ant, and Crow. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There's the show, Orion. That's not the end. Skunk starts to rise. I also have a spring surprise. Skunk leaks up to take the stage. She reads the words upon her page. Oh yeah, there's the bear in the background. We talked a little bit about hibernating and torpor at the beginning. When I awake from my winter's sleep, I love to hear the robins peep. I love to smell the sweet spring breeze. I love to see the budding trees. This is a poem that the skunk has written. I suppose it was over the winter. Maybe she came out of her hibernation just to write a little poem. When I wake from my winter's rest, I tell you what I love the best, to see my friends down by the lake. Makes me so glad to be awake. Skunk's friends all clap and make a fuss. We love the poem you wrote for us. There it is. And we love you, your friends all sing. They hug and kiss her. Happy spring. There you go. Happy spring. That's kind of the reason I read it, just so I could say happy spring. All right, happy spring. Although in Bemidji, Minnesota, before I got up this morning, the 24 hours that came before that was all about snow. You're going to live in Bemidji, you're going to get surprised because the weather is not always predictable. All right, so how come a third book? Well, it does star 2 rabbits. That's a reason good enough, isn't it? 2 rabbits star this show. The other thing that's going on is it's called In a Jar. And in a jar, they're going to put some things in a jar. And the in a jar, well, you take a look. Because what are they putting in the jar? That would be the question. All right. Llewellyn was a collector. He collected things in a jar. And I think, yeah, Llewellyn is a rabbit. And you know, we talk about this a lot at the Science Center. Orion's ears go down because he is a rabbit called a domesticated lop. How do you like that title, domesticated lop? It actually has to do with his ears, right? His ears don't stand up and never have. Now this drawing has the ears standing up. When he held a jar and peered inside, Llewellyn remembered all the wonderful things he had seen and done. He collected small, ordinary things. So there's things in the jar. I'll get this back to the library, so if you say to yourself, wow, I'd like to go get that book. There it is, front cover, in a jar. Like buttercups, feathers, and heart-shaped stones. That's the stuff he's putting in jars. One night, the sunset painted the sky the colors of tart cherry syrup. Llewellyn ventured down to the shore with as many jars as he could carry. A little girl named Evelyn was there too. Now the book takes a little bit of a strange turn right about now. So it made sense collecting rocks, right? Albeit in jars, and other things that he'd find and put up. Llewellyn scooped that cherry light into his jar, and when he was done, he gave one to Evelyn. Evelyn took the jar home, and to her surprise, it glowed all night with the memory of the sunset. From then on, Llewellyn and Evelyn collected things together. They collected things like rainbows. So here's a rainbow. They get the rainbow, they put it in the jar. They bring the jar home. In the wind, just before the snow flies. They collected things you might not think would ever fit in a jar, but somehow they did. There you go. They collected the wonders of winter. So there's the wonders of winter, all going in the jar. They collected the newness of spring. So what are they putting in the jar? That would really be the question. If you're going to collect the newness of spring, what are you putting in the jar? In the long days and the shadows of summer. You're putting that in there too. What are they collecting? Wow, what a room. Over time, their jars filled the walls of Llewellyn's house. But one day, Evelyn had some sad news. Evelyn's family was moving to a new town. Too soon, it was time to say goodbye. So if you've ever had that experience, best friend leaves town, moves to another town. With Evelyn gone, Llewellyn's heart felt like an empty jar. That's my favorite line in the whole book. This is worth reading the book for that line right there. With Evelyn gone, Llewellyn's heart felt like an empty jar. One night, Llewellyn lay awake, falling stars glittering against the dark sky. He wondered if Evelyn could see them too. Llewellyn tiptoed out into the moonless night and collected the meteor shower and put it in his jar. Now, how do you collect a meteor shower and put it in your jar? How do you do that? See the meteor shower? Can you see that? Is that showing up? The next day, he prepared a package. I really love this whole lineup, right? Because it's got to be fragile. I'm telling you, Evelyn must have moved a long ways because it shows an airplane carrying this package all the way to wherever Evelyn is. When the box arrived and Evelyn opened the jar, the stars in the night fell around her. There you go. Definitely a rabbit. Evelyn knew exactly what to do. She collected the sounds, the crowds, and the bright night lights of her new home. Gives me an idea that maybe Evelyn moved to a big city with lots of noise and crowds and lights. And then she sent them to Llewellyn. There they are, all coming out of the jar. And so, when the golden leaves of autumn began to fall once again, Llewellyn set out to collect a jar full for Evelyn. There, a little boy named Max was there. Yes. Max is a rabbit. Definitely a rabbit. Luckily, Llewellyn had brought an extra jar. And that's the end of that story. Today you got 3. 3 for the price of 1. How do you like that, Orion? That's it for us today. And I just want you to know, today is a Wednesday and we had a field trip today. So if you're a teacher and you're watching today, or maybe if you're a student, that sounds even better. If you're a student, go tell your teacher tomorrow, hey, they're letting field trips in at the Headwater Science Center. We do them on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Now the field trips, that's kind of a school term, but we'd do something for groups. So if you happen to be a scout leader watching this and going, hey, there's an idea, I'm going to bring my scouts there. That would be on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, because we're closed to the public on those days, just so we can let groups come in that are a group of people that are staying together all the time, like a classroom. So we're open on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. We always open at 9:30. Fridays, Saturdays, and Mondays we open at 5:30. And on Sundays, we're open in the afternoons from 1 to 5:30. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Will it be me next Wednesday? Well, you never know, Orion, but